Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. We open with an exposition that the world was once covered in fire and ruled by a witch named Akivasha. One day a god converted the hell on earth into the kingdom of Volusia and left a single flame still burning as a reminder, but we soon learn that last part was stupid. We're also reminded that this movie was made in the late 90s when blaring heavy metal music accompanies this periodic skirmish. The genius tagline for the film was "Kull rocks," yet this is him simply handing in his application form to get a job working for the king. General Taligaro likes what he sees with the Barbarian but throws his battle axe away because we don't need any lumberjacks. For his final test, Kull is given a flaming sword and must defend himself blindfolded while wading through knee-deep water. Like, what the hell is this? Honestly, the whole audition process is ridiculous, and the general probably only wins because he trains in the dark to hide that ugly form. He still considers the soggy warrior until learning that our bootleg Conan is also Atlantean and giving the "we're going in a different direction" speech. Just then Taligaro the racist receives word that the king has gone crazy and slaughtered his entire bloodline. King Borna felt threatened by his successors and attacks Tali, who's now next in line as his cousin's brother's nephew or something, but Kull intervenes. All of the useless guards stand around watching their king get attacked by this random barbarian, but they also just let him wander into the throne room in the first place. Clearly outmatched, the king tries the old look away of deception move but foolishly does it in slow motion, giving Kull time to plunge a sword into his heart. With him defeated, everyone is about to bend the knee to King Tallahassee, but his mentally deficient cousin Ducalon arrives with his haircut. He wants to argue his own case, but Borna literally resurrects just to give the crown to Kull and save us from this Game of Thrones. A thimble-wearing eunuch named Tu says that the decision is irreversible according to these conveniently located stone tablets of outdated laws. Everyone must now kneel to the Atlantean before the ballless advisor takes Kull to meet his harem of slave women, because Stubby here knows what's up.
And now?
Kull recognizes the concubine Zareta from the time when he sexually harassed her, so has her sent to his bedchambers for round 2, I suppose.
Chalendra, sire.
She whips out the tarot cards and foreshadows the end of the movie when she says that Kull's kingdom will be won with a kiss, but he's too creepy to understand what she means. Since she's a slave, Zareta's like, fine, let's get it over with, but Kull says that he doesn't force himself on women while actively forcing himself onto this woman. He suddenly grows a heart and remembers that he was once a slave himself, so he dismisses what we can painfully call the love interest. Now the barbarian king wants slavery ended, but any law written on the tablet can't be changed, and wouldn't you know it, owning a slave is one of them. His half-hearted attempt is at least somewhat acknowledged by Zareta, but Moses would have parted the tablet and got the girl as well. While out shopping or maybe bird-watching, Kull saves a high priest named Ascalante from receiving a flogging, since there's no laws against releasing prisoners apparently. He claims to have been priesting too hard for the rival priest to handle, but is now our light-footed ally who pops up again later. At the coronation, all of the public cheer for the worthy replacement except for a couple of bad eggs who try to attack him. They all receive the knobby end of the king's scepter before being executed by General Tallywhacker because he doesn't want Kull to know who sent them. Under the cover of darkness, the conniving cousins conspire with the necromancer Enaros, whose ugliness is matched only by his personal assistance. He promises to help them rid the kingdom of Kull by using the flame of Acheron to resurrect the dried-up sorceress that I mentioned in the beginning. The moon goes red and a cloud of moisturizer is breathed into the demon Akivasha, who takes on a slightly more pleasant-looking form. Her minion is also made a little less ugly, and after a convoluted resurrection that seemed to take forever, we hurry through the story of Kull marrying this witch. We can chalk it up to him falling under her spell, and it's not like he wasn't offered this so-called virgin princess first, but Kull says that he already boned this one. The bride, however bonable she might be, suspiciously doesn't want Zareta to read her fortune, so Kull gives the slave girl a good what for. Not noticing that he just slap-shotted the death card out of Zareta's deck of cards, our hard-up king is none the wiser when he beds the red witch. Remember that she really looks like this, and within seconds of kissing her, Kull gets corpseified, and this lying witch accuses Zareta of poisoning him. Let's all just believe her, shall we, so the fall girl can be slated for execution while we run through fake funeral proceedings for an empty suit of armor. The real Kull is shown still alive in the dungeon, since he was apparently such a stud in bed last night that the demon offers him a chance to rule by her side. That really happened, but it'll also be a hard pass, so the rejected sorceress orders her manbear pig to torture Kull to death. She doesn't stay because that would make it too hard for Kull to use Ugly's own teeth to bite through his chains and escape. Kull lynches whatever the hell this thing is with the gate rope and uses it as a counterweight before running into Ascalante on his way out. He learns Akivasha is actually an ancient demon queen and not some 19-year-old hottie like she told him, which is how they always get you. To save his sister Zareta from being burned alive, the priest smuggles the fugitive back into Volusia between the testicles of a camel. Kull then stows away inside the king's suit of armor, and lucky it isn't some heavy demonstration piece because he needs to fight in this thing. cutting down all of those who approach as Ascalante frees his sister. Kull only needs to take his helmet off to make all this end. He's still technically the king, but instead just cuts down all of these possibly loyal soldiers who are only trying to feed their families. The trio try to escape but get cornered in a church where Kull's arms have grown weak and he needs help with the big face reveal. Suddenly strong again, he squares off against King Tallywhacker, who deserves a fair fight and not to just be helmeted by Zareta in the side of the head. I guess it's too late, so the three set the flammable sand on fire and follow Ascalante through a secret passage, as they don't call this guy the Indian in the cupboard for nothing. They escape Volusia on borrowed horses while Taligaro wakes up angry at Akivasha for not killing Kull when she had the chance. Darth Vader over here says that she altered their pact and prays she doesn't alter it any further, then orders Talia to hunt down Kull. Meanwhile, the trio travel to the coast and arrive at a port by nightfall where Kull seeks out his old friend Juba. He pretty much just commandeers this weirdo ship and crew for as long as he wants, then sets sail north searching for something called the Breath of Volca. It's said to be able to defeat the demon, and if that's the case would come in handy with some of these sea creatures they're catching. At dinner, Juba's made to test the food for poison before Kull's satisfied, but they all pass out anyway because it was drugged. He wakes up bound alongside Ascalante as Captain Cosby intends to ransom the pair back to the Queen alive. Zareta, on the other hand, dressed in this abomination, tries to kill Juba, so she gets dragged along behind the ship as punishment. Luckily it's a piece of junk because Kull simply rips up the floorboard, allowing him to disarm the captain and knock him overboard. We never see the traitor again as Kull frees all of the enslaved oarsmen who fight back and take control of the ship from Juba's crew. For some reason the first mate cuts Zareta's rope instead of fighting, but she just uses it as a lasso to lynch him overboard. Having to save her own damn self, the trio continue north, but that night Kull gets a consensual shag out of Zareta for at least trying. That is until she appears to be Akivasha, who has projected herself into Kull's head, then approaches Enaros all sinister like. But I think this little dude gets laid because the next scene we see him, he's a very happy chappy. The next day our group reach their destination, so out come the mink coats as they intend to get as deep inside of her as this island will let them. Reaching a frozen bank, Kull's company makes their way on foot into a cave where they find a big-headed shrine to the god of bad breath. If the frozen men surrounding it isn't a big enough giveaway, the carvings on the wall say that only a woman can get close to Volca. Anyone else gets turned into a popsicle trying to get close, like Nightwolf here. So lucky they brought Zareta, who distracts the frozen god with some frosty nips. She prays to the giant stone head for it to breathe on her when Captain Taligaro and his men show up, as they must have followed the ship's footprints. A skirmish begins with the pirates, and as they're fighting, Volca fills Zareta with its stinky breath, causing the temperature in the cave to rise. It allows Kull and Ascalante to reach his freeze-dried sister, but the Talladega Knight still has to be dealt with. While Kull's distracted with a foot soldier, the priest finally does something but shouldn't have, as he just gets killed by Taligrogu. In his most competent moment of the film, the general then grabs Zareta and dashes out of the cave before it collapses around Kull. Trapped inside, he gives his dead friend the finger eye wipe treatment, then somehow knows to take an axe to Volca's fat face to escape. It opened a passageway to the ocean above, and just his luck, Tally Douche didn't scuttle the ship that now only needs a single crew member to sail. Meanwhile, the pointless cousin character walks in on the queen doing some hocus pocus and turns out to be ballsier than I thought, as he straight up shanks the witch. Akivasha just pulls the blade out of her heart and pushes Ducalon out of a window, where he spontaneously combusts for that hairstyle alone. As the moon begins eclipsing the sun, Tally delivers the news that he's killed the barbarian, sending the demon into a pleasure spasm. They quickly subside when she notices Kull seemingly returned from the dead when Akivasha begins transforming uncontrollably. She sets the town on fire, then goes bathing in the flame of Acheron to finish doing her thing, whatever that might be. Tally throws Zareta into the flame to destroy the demon, but it doesn't even do anything because he didn't read the instructions. Kull was impeded by that fire for all of about 2 seconds and drags Zareta out before engaging in what like his fourth duel with this guy. Kull swiftly pins the Talster to a wall, and when he draws a dagger, reverses it for the worst case of quit stabbing yourself. Kull turns to the fire, but Enaros uses all of the magic in his arsenal to defend his queen. As I told you, she laid it on him. It's some first-year Hogwarts stuff, so Kull easily defeats him and comes face to face with Akivasha, who completely transforms. He then runs over to Zareta so that she can give him the breath of Volca through a kiss, and would you believe it, this is the demon's sexy stance. Akivasha's still trying to seduce Kull, who's technically still this thing's husband, but realizes too late that he's cold to the touch. Kull forces a big fat wet one on his beautiful bride and slipped her the breath of Volca, so Akivasha is finally defeated. Suddenly the Tally guy resurrects, or is more likely just still alive, and demands Kull hand over the crown, which I don't think would solve anything. The barbarian just catches his axe swirling around the vortex, and luckily Taligaro has a loose grip on Zareta because she ducks and the general is felled. So much of her hair was lopped off in the process that Zareta must now sport a soccer mom's hairstyle. Kull still takes her as his queen, and at another coronation for his awesomeness he abolishes slavery because that's something he could always do. The eunuch argues against it, so the king gives him a flashback of the worst moment of his life, but it's not like he could lose it again. And the movie ends.